So shame on me. See, the meeting's later, you come later, yeah. So, good evening, the CPC meeting will come to order. We got a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight. Why don't we start in order? Mr. Lippert's here, representing the Historical Commission tonight.
I'm not, actually. I'm representing the Historical Society.
Society, okay. Okay, I didn't think so, okay. Well, you're on.
Carol, come.
Are you making me sit up there?
You have to come.
Yes.
I'm just the mouth, she's the brains. Right. The brains behind the operation. Stan Lippert, 43 Stonecleve Road, president of the North Andover Historical Society. It's a common mistake. People think of us as the Historical Commission. We are not. That's a town organization, right? Kathy Siska is its head, and they have members that do something different than what we do. We're a private organization, and we're privately funded, so just so the distinction is clear. So we were given a list here of 5 projects that I apparently want an update on. So to start out, the old burying ground refurbishment of gravestones project. That's actually not a project that's one of ours. That's actually genuinely the Historical Commission. That's their project. So you'd have to talk to them and find out what the status on that is. We don't know.
So, yeah, we talked about that at the last meeting, and the commission would like to keep that project open in case any stones get damaged. We had something get damaged, I think, 2 years ago, and we were able to repair it because we had that
Do
money
you still
available.
get that same guy? Isn't there like one person
Yeah.
that knows how to do this in the
Yeah.
entire country?
And it's nice because they are actually up at the second burying ground doing the work, so.
Yeah.
If there's an issue, they can.
It's like
they can
like
come
a
over.
couple that are the world's experts in doing these stone refurbishments, so.
Fannin.
Yeah. We had a grant for the preservation of the second burying ground. There was the first part, and that part has a balance in it of $6,765.84. That phase of that effort is basically closed, so we could return that money to the account, right? However that
And
works.
what about the other piece? Let's just.
The
go
other
through
piece
all
is
of them
still, the other piece is still open, and that's still active. So there's another piece that's like 105,000 that's still ongoing. That work is ongoing. So that's, there were 2 phases. The first phase was completed, and the second phase is still active.
So for the second phase, what work is left and how much do you think it's going to cost?
We have no reason to believe it's not going to cost what is in there. There's like about $100,000 in there, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done for the refurbishment there. So the Fannins, again, it's the same people doing the same work, so.
Yeah. Ms. Carol, will you-
Yeah. Carol Majahan, I'm the director of the North Andover Historic Society. I do not live in this town, sorry. But I am the administrator of every one of these grants, and so for the second burying ground, as you know, they've removed the trees, and they've removed even more trees, because we just submitted for reimbursement another rather large bill. The tree removal, of course, was to protect the stones that are there. They've actually gone in as well and not only picked up stones that were damaged on site, but in the 1938 hurricane, somebody kindly noted all the stones that the hurricane picked up and threw over the walls and in other people, just over the yard. There was a lot of debris, so they had to recover that. And I don't know if you've been there, but in the very back part of the yard, they actually have built these sort of temporary holding stations that they put a lot of the stones so they would survive over the winter. Because yes, indeed, it's the same couple, the Fannins, who work not only these 2 burying grounds, but all over the world. And so it takes them a long time to get to it. Every year they have to get rid of the poison ivy because the Fannins are, terribly allergic to it. And as you all know, North Andover is one of the main capitals of poison ivy growth. I've discovered, especially around burying grounds. And they are, as far as I know, everything is still on target, but if you'd like, the people who, because this property belongs to the North Parish Church, if you require any further time estimates of the work, I can get it from them. We're kind of the administrators of the money. We're not really.
But
the
we have
owners.
no reason to believe that what was proposed isn't what needs to be done. So-
Right.
So that's our assumption. So, We have some remaining funds in an account that was for the Parson Barnard property that was associated with putting sprinklers and alarms in the barn. And we just were not able to finish the final part of that project, which was to hook it up to the fire department. There was some problems, issues about how to do that, how they wanted us to do that, the way to go about doing that. We finally, I think, have that resolved, and we just need to get a phone line put in place and some equipment, a phone line from the barn to the house where there is a phone, and then get some equipment in the barn, and then we can finish that project up. It most likely won't take the whole amount, or the whole remaining amount, which is $14,000, but we'll see. And the other project we have is the Bradstreet School Memorial or Monument, as you might want to call it. We have what Jillian said we had was $23,200. We actually think we have somewhat less than that because, as you may recall, you graciously gave us a loan when they were tearing the building down so we could rush over there and take the stones up the back of the building before they went into the dumpster. And so we have subtracted from the amount that we were given for the grant, the loan that we got. So our accounting is more like $16,700 rather than the $23,000 she had. So we've deducted the loan from our amount, and we're using that as our bogey. I did my show and tell, so. Oops. Oh, man. Oh, jeez, I'm too old for this. This is old. So that's one of the plaques, huh? This is the one for the Johnson High School bell that's in front of the school administration building, and it's going to be on a stand there. And it explains what the bell is, where it came from, what Johnson High School was, all of that. And it has a nice photograph of the original school and everything. So that's going to be there, along with a memorial plaque for veterans that were from Johnson High School. So those are going to be the two plaques that are on plaque stands. We had originally, the original idea was to make a freestanding monument, if you will, using those stones to the Bradstreet School and make some other bronze plaques like those for other fallen schools, but it turned out that we now have a Bradstreet Early Childhood Center. So the school department now wants to use the stones as part of that. So the plaques that we'd originally thought about don't fit into that scheme. And we're waiting for them to give us some idea of where they'd like those stones placed on that property. As you are probably aware, it's taken them a little bit longer to get organized there than they thought it would. So they're still working on the landscaping there in the front, but they're going to find a location where they'd like to have those stones put, and they'll let us know, and then we'll take care of that. And that will be the remaining expense on this. That most likely will leave quite a bit of money left, which we can turn back to the fund when we're done. So that's the status.
So when you say stones,
Yeah.
what are they come?
They're, it's about twice the size, imagine about twice the size of this table. They were on the side of the building, right, in the back, and they said Bradstreet School, and they had the years of the various portions that the school was built. And it says North Andover, Bradstreet School, and years. 1884, 19-something, and 1948, when the various parts of the school were built. And so those are the stones. And they're about 6 feet high and about 30 feet long when you put them all together.
And are you storing them behind the middle school still?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right by the
Yes.
back entrance.
they were all stacked back
No,
there.
you moved them over by the track. now.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're starting to get ready to stage them, so
Gotcha.
they've been moving them around, so that's the plan. And so it turned out, we waited just long enough, so we probably have the appropriate use for the stones to put in front of the Bradstreet School.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, So there you go, so. Questions? So we'll keep you posted on that, what do we need to do to turn back in this $6,765.84? Do we have to send a letter, just say we don't need it anymore?
If you're done, then we can just make a motion and
Okay,
to do that. It's the,
that's the second burying ground preservation, I think it's probably phase one.
Phase one.
Phase one.
what is it?
Project 1325.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to close out the remaining?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our friends from the library.
The secretary?
Yeah, she's not here right now, so we'll have
This is
to,
for the file, and then I'm gonna give everybody.
And I will tell you that we have new copier printers and the color is not balanced very well, so some things don't print, especially the colored photos. I have all of these files electronically, so if the secretary says, geez, why am I scanning these? If she emails me, I will send her the electronic versions, which will print better probably on somebody else's color printer.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
why don't we just take one of these, just pass it around and I'll take it back. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Eva Homery. I'm the Chair of the Board of Trustees for the Stevens Memorial Library. And
I'm Kathleen Keenan, the director of the Stevens Memorial Library.
so we're here to update you on what has been going on with our project related to the masonry refurbishment for the historic steps at the library. And we received a CPC grant of $55,300 in February when did we actually receive it? In
It was voted in
town meeting
in May
in
2017.
May. Yeah, 2017. So we wanted to give you a status update because things have been moving rather slowly on our project, and we wanted you to know where we were with it today and why we were at the point that we are at today and why things have been going rather slowly. So I think Kathleen's going to do most of the talking because she lives this a lot more than I do, so she can really give you all the details. But we've given you a copy of a memo, and most of you received a copy of some concept drawings, which Kathleen will speak to.
So originally, I was thinking it was a fairly brief update, and I wasn't going to write a lot, but then I thought about sharing some of the reports that we received from engineering companies. And once I started putting the stack together, it didn't seem like such a short list anymore, and they probably could use some explanation in between them. We received the grant, which we were delighted to receive. As always, we've had really great support from the Community Preservation Committee for projects over the years, and some of those projects continue to get us praise every day. The most noticeable are the historic doors. People come through and they constantly stop and look at the doors and tell us what a great job that was. And we give you credit for really helping that project along.
And how's the lack of rain, hopefully?
Oh, the roof?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. One of the things, I mean, that's another thing to really appreciate. We waited for 3 months after the roof was completed, and then one day we walked around and we replaced 75 ceiling tiles on the top floor of the library. Every tile that had a leak stain in it. I wanted to be sure that the next time I saw a leak on a stain, it was a new leak as opposed to an old one. And so we waited 3 months. At the end of 3 months, I'm delighted to say we didn't see a thing, and we took out those tiles, and we haven't seen anything since. We're also really delighted we were able to get a 30-year warranty on the flat roof, which is basically 2/3 of the building's roof surface. That warranty requires us to be inspected annually by the company who's manufactured the materials that were used. During the process, they came several times to inspect that it was installed correctly. and that the materials were used correctly. And now they come back annually to check the materials are holding up. All of this keeps our warranty valid. So the roof's another big win. The patrons just don't see it because I don't let them go up there. It's probably some kind of liability if they're climbing the ladder to the roof.
If you change your mind, my kids would love to go up.
I will tell you that during the project, I went up a couple times, and it's a really spectacular view of the park across the street. Not a big heights person, so I probably won't go up there regularly, but it really is spectacular. The granite steps, the historic entrance, really, we know were the next problem, and we were thinking that it was more surface issues, that, you know, with bricks and with stone, your mortar in between joints comes out. We had the original estimate done by the Murray Company, and based on what we saw from really looking at the surface without taking anything apart, it looked like it was a repair. But one of the things that Steve Foster, as facilities management, has us do is before we actually start work on anything is bring in an engineer to just take one quick look. The bad news was the first engineer said, it's really not the repair that you think it is. And so Steve, with due diligence, said, let's bring in a second opinion. Both opinions agreed that there is structural issues going on with the stairs. So I didn't give everybody a full copy of the package, but basically the stairs are a bridge. So when you go up the granite steps, they are over an enclosed vault that no one can access unless you take grills out of the walls. When you go up the second part of the stairs, you're actually over a second vault, which we enter through the lower lobby, the lower entrances on either side staircase. So there are actually two vaults in there. Those stairs are not sitting on anything except air and bricks and things like rebar and things that get water in them. Things like rebar don't like water in there. Bricks don't like water in there. In our original quote, we showed you pictures of the white efflorescence on the bricks. The engineer said, that's what you see on the outside. If you see that on the outside, there's something on the inside. Based on their two assessments, we decided not to start the basic repairs that we thought we were going to do because they told us those repairs would not last very many years. And given the amount of money that we put into the building, we didn't really want to start. Working with Steve Foster, we looked at what are the other options. Do we, in fact, take the entire staircase out, rebuild the metal ironwork underneath, put in vapor barrier and all of these kinds of things to keep the water out for the future? We got estimates for that work. The estimates range from about $200,000 to over $400,000. So at that stage, we went back to the Board of Trustees, Steve Foster and I, and said, so here's what we know now. And we're like, ooh, really? This is even way more money and way more of a project and work that we anticipated. So one of the engineers said, you know, if you just put the stairs on dirt and got rid of the vaults, it might be a different solution. It would be a more permanent solution where you will no longer have the kind of water intrusion that we have going on. So at that stage, we said, well, there's just one issue. Currently, when you go down the staircases on either side, they go two doors, which are emergency egress doors, through the lower floor into the children's room. And those were actually the original staircases going in 1907, I think, when the building entered. That's how you went into the children's room. So the next question was, if a better engineering solution was to put the stairs on dirt and take away the two vaults or the bridge that it sits over, what happens to the egress, which is a building code issue? We hired another company, LaGrassi, to come in and do an egress study. Based on their study, they believe that we can eliminate those two staircases on the side and the doors there because we have adequate egress for the lower floor without them being there. So that's all we know today. We have some price estimates. We have one engineering design which says rebuild the staircase over the double vault or, you know, build another bridge and assume that with building materials today and technology that we will keep the water out for a lot more years. But both engineering companies say always, if you don't have to build stairs over a vault, why would you? So we're here to say what we've done. We've spent some money just on these engineering studies so that we have the facts, the question for us really is the next step. So Steve Foster and I have talked, and we've met continually with Eva, who is both the chair of the Board of Trustees, but we have a subcommittee that looks at building issues. So Eva and I talk pretty regularly about things in the building in general and the bigger projects in particular, and felt it was time to come and say just what we know and what do we think we want to do next. So if I can answer questions.
When will you know how much it's gonna be, which direction you're gonna go? I rely heavily on Steve, I'm sure, as you do.
Yes. I have to say, one of the best things that happened to me as library director was have Steve Foster here and have a facilities manager. So while I need to learn about these things, I have Steve
She hired him.
to teach me and to continually, yes, really, great job. I think probably all the buildings in town will tell you the same thing, that it's really helpful to have that kind of expertise that you can call all the time, and you're not looking for a consultant who maybe wants to upsell you. Here's a man who just wants to do the best. So Steve and I both, and Eva, have talked several times. We've been doing this really for about 12 or 13 months, so it's been an ongoing process of what we want to do. Steve says that at this stage, we could go out to bid for a design, a second design, what I'll call the alternate design, which is let's eliminate the 2 side staircases and build stairs that sit on the ground as opposed to building another bridge over 2 vaults. And just me playing with some photo editing stuff, one of the things that you'll see, there are some pictures, because we really want to maintain the appearance of the facade of the library, because it's such a beautiful vista, that what could we do that doesn't change it? And so we just tried to put together what I'm going to call a concept picture. One idea which Steve Foster actually brought up, and I liked, was that with those lower staircases gone, that we just fill them in eventually, and we pave on there, so it creates more brickwork just around there. So it's like extending the front brick walkway into the building. We have been fortunate. We've done various kinds of measurements. In one of the staircases, there is a grill, which is an air vent to the inside of the building. And based on the level of the staircase, we will not need to move the grill that is a vent in the building.
Right, but what's still gonna be the next step? If you, Steve's gonna, it sounds like Steve's in design phase. So what are we gonna bid? Is he,
So
Is-
we have one preliminary design, and and that's where we get the cost estimate, $200,000 to $400,000. is from-
preliminary design by whom?
By Structures North. It's
Okay.
They're one of the 2 companies who came in to do the initial engineering evaluation for them.
And the design was approved by the Board of Trustees?
The design has been looked at. When we saw the design and we talked about the ongoing issues is when we decided not to do anything more with the design, but to go back and study the egress issue. So Steve's sense is that at this stage, we could go out and get the alternate design, which is eliminate the stairs and the vaults, and see what that design looks like. And then at that stage, we look at those 2 designs and decide which one we go with. And at that stage, then we'd know what a construction cost might be.
So he's picking, I'm just trying to make sure I know in my head. So the first design was by Structures North that concluded or concurred as well with, was the second opinion.
Yes.
Was the first and second opinion, not the very first.
Structures North and McBree Engineering were the first 2 engineering, and I called them the assessments. They came in and they spent several hours, and they took some screwdrivers to things.
Yeah, no, I know what they do. I'm asking, but was there 3 companies? Because,
Those were the first 2, those 2 companies came in.
you're right, who's the third?
She doesn't have it yet, so I think they needed to.
Oh,
We're
so you haven't
eliminating
gotten the
vault.
second
Right,
opinion?
yeah, those quotes kept the vault in place.
Oh, okay,
That's why
all
they're
right,
so
now I'm
much-
on the right page.
Sorry about
Okay, now I'm on the right
That
page.
was with the
Thank you,
bridge.
thank you,
We now want to
right.
get a price for the stairs.
Yes,
Simple
okay.
stairs.
And the
Yeah.
assumption being that
Makes
if you're going
sense.
to
No,
fill
I
in the
get it.
vault, close everything off,
Thank you,
that
Derek.
if the cost is at least equal or less, then you should go in that direction because it should last longer.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at this stage, I have no idea. I look at it as a good-sized construction project and wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily expect to be any less, but if it's a more permanent solution that we no longer have the water coming in. One of the things that happens right now is that the second vault, its inner wall is the wall to the kitchen and the back areas of the downstairs in the library. And so we are starting to have water bubbles on the sheetrock on the inner wall in the vault. So, once the water gets in, it finds a beam, it finds a pipe, and it just keeps going further and further in. So the water is not really limited just to being in that vault area now. We're starting to see it into spaces inside the building, inside the library.
And you know how
So
we
you-
feel about water in the library.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
So you'd go out for your second design, then decide, the trustees and whatnot, and then, I mean, you have enough in your grant right now to do that. And then you could even start full-blown design phase before you'd have to come back. I mean, you're looking at next year's funding cycle,
Yes, well,
is
and
what
part
I'm
of,
assuming you're here.
what we're looking at right now is to move as quickly as we can with some of these design steps so that we have the ability to put it into the capital improvement process, which will be October, and then also, of course, to be ready for your next grant
Great.
phase in February. We've had success in the past where capital improvement would pick up part of the cost, and then we could come for the remainder of the money to CPC. So we've got a time schedule, and that's why this meeting was a particularly good one for us to come to.
Perfect.
That we hope we have time to get adequate documents for those two processes.
You can go ahead with the design phase, not necessarily knowing the full cost, the cost estimate yet, or knowing if you had the funding?
We
Yeah.
have the funds right now in
Yeah.
the grant.
No, I know you have them, you spend that money not necessarily knowing, are we talking about a $500,000 problem, a $700,000 problem?
That's what, when they get their two designs, then the board will decide between the two, and in those designs will be cost estimates.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna have to go back out
Then
to
that was
bid.
back at that point, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Great.
sounds the right decision.
In
Gotta
terms
fix
of
it right.
both of the options here, do you have to take any, significant steps to preserve the historical integrity of the entryway? Or is it pretty much going to take care of itself based on the path you go down?
The building itself shouldn't be impacted, except minorly where the stairs actually join to the building.
You do something with those stairs, though, if
Oh,
they're
well,
original, right?
the intent would be to reuse the granite, if
Yeah,
at all
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
That's our desire. We might do something to make them a little less slippery when it rains and ices
Yeah.
up. But we would like to retain the granite stairs itself. And one of the engineers who was in thought that in deconstructing the vault, we're going to have a lot of brick left, and we may be able to use that brick. So when you go down the lower stairs, there's a door on either side. So that door would disappear and would be enclosed and bricked in. So the portion that might be above grade, we could be using the same brick, reusing
awesome.
the
That's
brick
great.
so that we're matching color and age
Awesome.
on the brick as well.
Love it.
So, would you bring everything up to the same grade if, in other words, now it goes down, there's a stairway down, you would eliminate that and just keep the...
Yes,
Yeah,
we'd have it be
okay.
at the same grade. That
Yeah,
makes
right,
it,
yeah, Yeah, and
easier.
and logically makes sense, I see, with the brick, you want to have something that matches what's already there, so, yeah.
Yeah.
We create little patio areas on
Yeah.
either side.
That's what I was thinking, like
Put
benches, yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
That would look
exactly
great.
that type of
You
thing.
really would.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'd even try to think about saving the granite on the stairs going down and reusing them somewhere. Because it's part of the building, and I would like
Yeah.
to see us try and save those,
Yeah.
make benches out of those.
Exactly. That'd be
There,
cool.
there you go with the slippery, because they are slippery.
Yeah. So
But those are 100-plus years old, right?
1907, those stairs went in.
Yeah.
So we'll look at, we have landscaping that we want to do too, but we're waiting to get the stairs done first. So if we have pieces that we can then integrate into our later landscaping, certainly we would want to do that.
Love.
Yeah, so,
Nice.
okay, okay.
All set?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I love that library. Pretty.
Remember at one point they were talking about eliminating it?
Yes. Could you imagine?
It's the busiest place in town.
It really is. I don't go there as often as I should.
I remember as a kid going down those
I
stairs.
worked in the children's room in high school. I loved it. I remember going down those stairs. I remember slipping down those stairs a couple times.
It was my
too.
job to shovel
A
them.
little late.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Yes, me of all people worked at the library in high school.
Well, next topic of discussion is Rolling Ridge, our visit out to Rolling Ridge. So I recollect Donovan, Terry, and I were all out there.
Yep.
Want to sort of tee it up?
Sure. So, we took a walk out there and took a look at the trails, the proposals. But I think, I wasn't able to stay the entire time, so I was grateful that we started with the parking lot, which I, in particular, had a lot of interest in. So I think we looked about where the parking lot was designed, or, were sort of suggested to go, right? And we looked at the area, and I think what we all kind of observed was what looked like some older wetland flags, possibly. And the part where they wanted to where they thought about putting the parking lot, or talked about it, was sort of on an incline. So so the bottom line that I took away, and you guys please add in, was that there seems to need to be a little bit more work done here before. It's not just bring a bulldozer in and make a parking lot. I think there's a little bit more stuff, I think. I mean, you guys tell me if you saw it differently.
Right, well, we have to get conservation out there to mark out the areas we're allowed to touch. And then, from there, we'll probably meet with DPW and see what they think. That would be my, I think, the way I would go.
I had parental driver's ed, so I wasn't able to go, but I think that's the route. Conservation and then DPW.
Deb, do you think we can get somebody to go out there?
I'll talk to Amy.
I'll meet somebody if they want, if you can give my number and I can show them what we saw, because I'm
Okay.
probably more available during the day.
And they put me on as well, just because I know that as we were talking about it,
Yeah.
the place, the idea is rather than having the parking lot kind of right off of Great Pond Road, you would drive down a little bit, which is kind of nice because it's away from the T area.
Right.
And so,
Yeah,
so
that
I think
is
the golf course would like that as well.
I had forgotten about that,
Yeah.
thank you. The part where they sort of had designed that parking lot was smack next to the tee, which I don't know that I'd want to park my car next to, having been a golfer for a while, I don't know that I would want to park my car right there, but.
And so that's kind of where, when you go down, that's kind of where there's a flag there. It's trying to figure out how much space is going to be needed for the 3 parking spaces, and whether conservation would allow us to be able to kind of put the parking spaces into some of that conservation land. And so that's going to be the question at this point.
So good. And
John, do you agree with all that?
No, I think that's fine. I mean, it's clearly, it takes a little bit more work because
Yeah.
it's undulating and it's wet, so
Yeah.
let's figure the right spot for everybody, so.
I think, to me, I think the important part is that we have buy-in from you, who wants to help us get it done.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, from my perspective, it kind of just sat there for a while, and I think now that we've all talked and been there, and we're all sort of on the same page, the important thing now is that we do it correctly in the right way to get it done so that it happens.
I think, and the other thing, the other thing that we had been talking about is the fact that the hill is a little too steep. We had Glenn from the Friends of the North Andover Trails with us as
That's
well.
right.
And I think that the concern was that coming down was a little steep. So we want to kind of try re-navigating the trail so the incline is not as great. And so I'm meeting with Glenn on Monday, and we're going to try to see what we can do to figure out how to kind of wind, so rather than having the trail kind of go up and then down, to kind of have it kind of go a little bit more along the side of the hill, along the lakefront. So that's going to be one of the other challenges, because it is a little bit of a steep incline going
This
down.
is after you go down and it starts to
And
bend.
it
So that
starts
was
to
one of
bend.
the things when, you were
No,
still
I
there,
wasn't,
but-
I
yeah.
don't think so. I think I had to leave by that part.
We had to go over the tree, remember the tree that was down?
Oh, yeah.
So there
Oh,
was
that part. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not really parking.
No.
No.
No, that's just he's just talking about the trail in general.
Just this trail in general. And so, and one of the other questions we had was, we wanted to put a kiosk there, kind of in the front, and Glenn is going to be helping us to design it through the Friends of North Andover. But would that come from DPW constructing the trail, the kiosk for us?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, or is
Yeah,
that
because
something?
it's really the signage, so.
Well, we put money on
Yeah,
signage for that
put
anyway.
money- yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have the
Oh,
money
yeah.
already approved for that
Okay.
signage with the parking lot. yeah.
And the reason I ask is because we actually have 2 scouts that are going to help us with the project, and one of the scouts is, I'm working with the scouts in terms of what a possible project is, and one of the ideas was for him to construct the kiosk. But if DPW is going to construct the kiosk, whereas we'll probably direct the scout in another.
Well, I think our
direction.
signage, will it be as nice as some of those Eagle Scout ones? Because the
Well,
Eagle Scouts
they
do
do a good
unbelievable
job.
projects. No offense to the DPW.
Wow.
But they really do. Have you seen these Eagle Scout
have.
projects?
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to the board.
Yeah, but I mean, I think as it comes together, once we we agree on the location, and then we can agree on where we're gonna put the kiosk and who can do it, I think. I think if we do it in that sequence of steps, it'll be
Yeah,
fine.
I think we do have to find where the parking lot's going first.
Yeah,
Get that done, and then I think the kiosk will show itself where it's gonna go, and then either the Eagle Scout can do it or we'll buy it if they're already into another project. I guess, I saw the new ones they're doing. They put one down at the pumping station on Great Pond Road that looks great. And I don't know if you would buy that thing. It's nice, it's got a nice roof on it, it looks good. So they are stepping up their game a little bit. So.
Like I said, no offense.
Disparage them at all.
Because
Stepping up
what I might end up doing then is because the timeframe's a little uncertain for the kiosk, I might move the Eagle Scout in a different direction, because I think because of the paperwork that he wants to be able to do, he's gonna wanna know more, he's gonna wanna know sooner than later whether
Oh,
the kiosk
sure.
is gonna be his
Yeah.
project or not, so I might move him in a different direction.
Let him pass next year.
Don't they have to get it done by 18?
Yeah, he needs, I need to find out when exactly he's gonna be aging out, and so that's where, that's the question that I've got. So I'll be meeting with Glenn and the 2 Eagle Scouts over the next few weeks, and I wanted to see where we were with the kiosk. So what I'll do is I'll put him onto another project. Another question that I had was just, we had been talking about some gates, because to be able to kind of allow, because one of the concerns that we have with Rolling Ridge is that the old road is still somewhat drivable. And that's kind of where we want it. We don't have a problem people walking. The concern is for people kind of being able to drive once it starts opening up. And we wanted to put so if you kind of come off, so if this is Great Pond Road, you kind of come down, you park here. The idea is to be able to have some kind of gate here that limits people from driving, probably something where people can, there's like an entrance for bikes and for hikers, but maybe like a gate that has a lock on it, people could drive
That's the Eagle
through.
Scout project, they have a nice gate up on, when you see Academy Road, where that trail goes through from,
Oh, down to the center.
Yeah, right,
Eagle Center,
right.
yeah.
They have a nice, it's a nice
is nice.
barnyard type gate.
Yes, huh?
But if you take a look at that, I think that'd be a great job for a scout.
Okay.
And that has a, swing gate that locks, shuts, so someone just has to lift the lever and they can walk in.
Okay.
It's terrific.
So it sounds like that, I can probably put that on this Scott's docket then as something that he could be able to do. And then I guess once conservation comes out, I'll just need to talk with conservation to see if the gate, where we might want to put the gate, is gonna, if it's gonna impact conservation or whether
Well, I
those
think the
permits need
gate
to come through, right?
chosen after the parking lot, right? Yeah, so conservation is basically gonna say yay or nay as to where the lot can go,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And then once we
I'll
figure
talk
that
to
out, then we'll figure out where the gate will need to go.
Yeah,
And I'll
okay.
probably end up putting the Scout on that gate. And then we're gonna do another gate a little bit further up so that when people need to turn to go onto the trail, they'll hit another gate, which will have another lock on it, so that they know to turn off of the old road.
And
to
how
Rolling Ridge and go
often are
down.
these gonna be locked? It sounds like a lot of locked gates.
No, they should never be locked. Well,
Yeah,
at
I'm
least the
like,
first
what are
one
these
should never-
locked
Never,
gates?
ever be locked.
Well, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where we want to be able to make sure that cars are not able to
Yeah,
go
you
through.
could, yeah.
And so, but it's something that, it
Gate
needs
at
to
the
be,
gate.
it needs to be something that, they have to kind of move and levered up. and
Latch,
so-
not lock.
Latch, yes, yeah.
You're looking to, I assume, to have emergency access
Yes, and that's kind of where it's, we want to be able to have, so in case an emergency vehicle needs to come up that way, we want to be able to do it. But we just don't want, high school kids wanting to drive out there to be able to kind of come into the property from that direction. So by having at least some kind of gate that kind of at least is a barrier there.
After the parking lot.
After the parking lot, correct. And so it'd be the parking lot, then some kind of gate,
As long as it's easy
And
to
then
get
another
in, you know,
and then another gate where they would need to turn
Another
to.
gate.
Because it restricts where people can walk up onto the Rolling Ridge property. Because the way that the trail, I should have brought a map, is that the trail goes this way and then it goes down. And then but the main paved road of the old road
Still goes to
still
the
goes to
Right,
the
goes
house.
right up to
Yeah.
Road.
And so that's kind of where we want to be able to have a secondary gate there to indicate where people need to turn to
Go down there and
there.
don't come up.
Yes, because I think if
Got
you
it.
were walking and you
Yeah.
had not been there before, you'd
Oh,
just follow
absolutely, you
the.
would continue to.
Right, yeah.
As long as it's clearly, we've got to be marked on the gate that it's okay to go in, and it's got to be easy to open and close, you know? I mean, it can't be such a big gate that it's being cumbersome for somebody to have to move. It has to be something that's simple to walk through, just like the gate on Academy Road, which is simple to get through.
Because my thought would be is that we would have like a smaller entrance that would fit bikes and walkers, it's not gated, and then we have another part that would have the part where if an emergency vehicle needs to go through. So that way, for people who are walking, they don't even have to open up a latch for a gate, they would just simply.
Like
be able
at a
to go
beach.
through. Like at a beach, yeah, yeah. But it sounds like we might be able to put those gates onto an Eagle Scout project.
Yeah, that, now I understand what you're saying.
Whatever they design, I'd like to see it before we put it up, just so something doesn't go in and then we go, what did we do?
Yeah, and I know that the Eagle Scouts that we've worked with have brought their plans to the conservation. We had to put a kiosk up at Rolling Ridge, and the Scout worked with conservation to make sure that was placed correctly. And we'll have the Scout come to this commission as well to make sure that everything is in place. And so the other thing is that we also wanted to do some nature kiosks along the lakefront property.
There's another scout.
Which is another Scout project. And so I'm assuming that would probably need to come to this commission, or would that go to conservation?
Not us. Or are we paying for that?
And I guess would that be?
Depends
so
who's paying for it. Yeah.
Yeah, who's paying
So-
for it?
well-
It'll be
well-
a scout maybe.
If it's a Scout project, the Scouts would pay for it, and so, but,
That's right.
yeah. And so if the Scouts are paying, if the Scouts are doing it, it would become a Scout-paid project. But would that need to come through this commission, or would that just simply go directly to conservation, because it'd be right up on the
Just
lake?
conservation.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
And so I don't know if there's any other questions. I'm working with Glenn, and so I know that Glenn has a timeline in terms of what we'd like to be able to do. We'd love to be able to do a ribbon cutting for this at the end of September, so we're hoping to get everything in place by then. So we'll see if we can do that.
Let's get conservation on it.
Chop,
Yeah.
chop.
Deb, is it done yet?
Yeah, I did.
I'm going to see Amy tomorrow morning, okay?
And so Deb, do you have my email address?
No, I do not.
Let me give you that.
Okay. And I will get in touch with her tomorrow, and then we will be
This
in
is working
contact
out lovely.
with Amy, who is the new
Finally.
Conservation Administrator.
The new Jennifer?
Yes, the new Jennifer. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Looking forward to it.
For
and so-
having us
Yeah.
out for the walk and for working with us so closely. This is
Oh, you're
very
welcome.
appreciated.
And thank you for clarifying the Scout projects. Hopefully we'll have a Scout here sooner than later to be able to get those gates.
Plenty of them available, I'm sure.
Yes, I've got 2 of them in the works right now, so. Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, not anymore. I'm officially done.
You are, that's right, because you had the dinner.
Mother,
Damn, former, that's the best title, former Cub Master.
Yeah.
is this it?
Okay, so we're through the first 3. The next one is the closeout of the Atwood property project. I know, Terry, you've been following up a little bit on that. If you can just give a little bit of context without, sort of just where things are or not, as the case may be.
So, he's decided he doesn't want to, pursue anything with the town, and he says he's gonna put it on the market this summer. and move forward in that direction, and didn't want to really have any other discussion about it. So I think, we'll have to see him play out that card and see what happens. And hopefully he does well. I hope he does. He's a great guy. He's a good man, and I'd like to see him do well, so.
All right, so let me ask a question. Which I don't know if this is, if we even can do this. If it goes out on the market and we have funds available, is the town allowed to bid, or is the town obligated to bid?
No, not obligated.
Well, even if we bid, we would have to then go out again, and we would have to get an appraisal, which has been the issue, and we cannot pay a dollar more than.
Which he wouldn't accept our offer then, if it's subject to an appraisal.
Well, I don't know if we can give an offer, because it would have to be subject to an appraisal.
Okay.
And the appraisal, we can't pay over a dollar of what the appraised value is, so
Yeah.
without doing the appraisal,
Which you won't let us do.
we can't.
Well, he won't let us do the site walk to map the wetland.
Right, but you can't do an appraisal without,
Well, that's the question.
yeah, it's like a.
So, but I mean, I think, Brian, last meeting, we had, I think, a really good discussion on this, and I think it's fair to say everybody, if we lived in a world where we knew the property were developable, and we would all have an interest in it as being something that we would want because of where it is. The problem is, we've got a situation where the landowner doesn't really want to do anything with us, and I've frankly talked to enough people that said, if we really actually, are interested, and we're almost better off at this point closing out this appropriation. If something comes up again in the future, the timing may not be great for us, somebody may, or we may have somebody might come in like, Greenbelt and carry it for us for a period of time, if that were the case. But I mean, I think right now, as much as I wanted to hang on to this thing forever, I think there's too many uncertainties, really. I mean, it just.
It's a lot of money to hold back.
Well, it's not even so much holding the money back, because we don't need it right now until we need it, but it's more along the lines is, hey, if there's no willingness to deal with this, we might as well just move on. I mean, at this point, and, what else can we?
Trust me, if there was anybody here who would fight for this thing forever, I would have, but once I know it's done. It's done, and he needs to put it out there, and like I said, I hope for his sake that he does well with it. It wouldn't be good for us, but if it doesn't, then this may be regenerated.
Yeah.
But the only way to get it back is to let him see how he's gonna make out on the open market.
Well, because nobody's gonna buy that land without testing it. So, I mean.
I mean, there's a lot of other things. One of the things that I don't think he completely realizes is, one of the huge benefits of dealing with the town is, once the town agrees to buy it, it's done.
It's over.
But if you go with the developer, there's also contingencies, because they're not gonna pay him any money until he gets subdivision approval, which he
Yeah.
may never get. So, yeah. But it is what it is at this
Well, it
point.
will play out, I think, one way or another, and I'm with Terry. I hope he does great, but in the case he doesn't, there's always next year.
Any indication what it's going on the market for?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I think, given that's the case, if somebody wants to make a motion to close out, I don't know what number that project is.
1345.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
No website, I suppose.
With no website. No website signage?
So, I think that one's on me, and I didn't have a chance to do anything since the last meeting,
Yeah,
so I don't have an update, I'm sorry to say.
yeah. Okay, minutes?
I think, just on signage, I mean, what the sign looks like and everything, that's one thing. But just, I think every single project, no matter what it is, somehow, shape, or form, should have our name on it.
Yeah.
And that's,
Totally agree.
that's just something I'd like to make sure we do going forward. And then what the sign looks like, I'm not sure it can look the same in every project.
Right.
But, it should have a sign.
I think what I was supposed to do was talk to the town about a way, do they have some bulk purchasing thing that we can get on board with? And
Yeah,
It's
and,
Dawn signs, right?
yeah, and on the website, that, I think you can sub off of it, kind of.
Okay.
I'm almost
Yeah, I was,
There's like
well,
a-
I see that,
I
I
think-
think that's what I was supposed
Yeah, but
supposed to
I
do,
mean, I'm
and I
not well
didn't.
versed in it by any
Yeah.
stretch, but I think there's like a and they're not like town PowerPoint, which some municipalities are, I'm actually on it in Newburyport, so like even though I'm not part of city government, the housing authority, I have my own website with my own address, but from my website, I connect to the city, from the city's website, they connect to us, so I think there's something like that. But I think, yeah, the website presence is great, but signage is number one. But I will tell you, Terry, even from the signs that have been up, you know, over the last year, 18 months, whatever, as projects have been going on, it's amazing to me how many more people are asking, like, community preservation, that's the tax I call you about every year? I'm like, yeah, see, it works.
See,
It's doing things.
We have all these playgrounds that just went in, and everybody's thrilled with the playgrounds, but
Right.
nobody knows.
Nobody knows. We need signs at those. Why aren't there signs at the playgrounds? John, as a matter of fact, why aren't there signs at all the brand-new playgrounds?
I don't know.
Well, we should find out, right?
We should.
How do we do that?
I'll talk to the DPW.
Okay, great.
So moved.
There we go. Seconded.
Okay. There's this, I don't know, this is written agenda is not the final one because there is.
I don't think it's one posted either.
The posted one is, we did add the election of officers to it, and because it was on, I guess, the consensus is that you do it at the end of the year rather than at the beginning of the next year. But Donovan and I have talked extensively, and I'm very happy to pass up the reins for the chair to him for the coming year. I think, we've worked together on a bunch of things. We've gone to a couple of meetings together with different boards and so forth. And I think it would be good to have a fresh set of thoughts and ideas and passions to lead the board. So, I guess since I'm still the chair, I probably can't make the motion, but I'm very enthusiastically supporting Donovan to be the new chair, so.
Well, I would move Donovan as chair for the next year, right?
Yeah, starting July.
July,
Yeah,
next fiscal year.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Well,
Somebody-
thank you, and I also just like to say thank you to John, because we have talked a lot about this, but although I will follow you, you are a towering figure on this committee, and I'm happy that you're still gonna be around and participating, because, we wouldn't have any of this without you, so, thank you very much for all that you've contributed. It's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to having you here as I do this, because I don't know that I could do it without you.
Good, well, thank you.
So thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, very nice. So minutes?
Move to approve the minutes from May 9th, 2019.
So on the election, are we not gonna have a code, what was your title before?
Oh, vice chair, I guess, right?
Yeah. So, I would suggest John, seeing as he knows the seat, if you're out, John can fill it.
I'm okay with that.
So moved.
John?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes?
Move to approve the minutes from May 9th, 2019.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you.